Hi everyone, it's Becca here. I hope you're all having a great Monday so far. Now we have some fantastic spring nail art goodness coming your way today, thanks to Light Elegance. Super excited that we're going to be joined by no other than the UK Head of Education, Jojo Wickens, and she's going to be sharing about how to create some spring nail art looks using the brand's spring collection, Happy Vibes. It's a gorgeous selection of 6 bright, bold, 60s inspired colours. Absolutely fantastic. I feel like I'm sort of channeling this in my outfit today. And yeah, she's going to be sharing all about how to create them. And of course, with demo lives, we know you might not have the time to watch the whole thing. You're very busy, and we appreciate that. So this will be saved later. But of course, if you have any questions, just comment below and I can ask Jojo for you. So hopefully, I've accepted you in, Jojo. So hopefully, any minute now, we can see you. But super excited to see the colours on the live. This is such a cool collection. Let me try add you in, Jojo. We'll see if that works. Sometimes technology doesn't want to be our friend. Oh, it's saying you're unable to join. Let me try again and we'll see if we can add you in. But let me know as well in the comments if you've been using the collection. Would love to hear that. And what are your favourite colours? And I'm sure Jojo will be using them today.
Hello.
How are
It
you?
finally worked. I had to I had to come out of the app and go back in, and now it's working. But yeah. Hi Rebecca, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. You're looking much more summery than I am. I'm in black. I should have worn something a bit more colourful, but
It was intentional. I came up and thought, oh, what have I done here? So how is everything at Light Elegance UK?
yeah, it's good. It's very busy. We're gearing up for actually the next collection now, ready for summer, but we don't have it in our hands just yet. So we're still enjoying Happy Vibes and the spring collection for now. But yeah, it's going very well. We're working on our education, which will be coming later on this year. So yeah, it's all very exciting.
I'll go, but so great.
Yes.
Well, I'm super excited to see this collection. I mean, I've seen on the images, but it'd be great to see it being used.
Yeah. Well, I've got some designs to share with you. I'm not sure how much I'll be able to do in the time that we have, but I'll show as much as I can for everybody. Yeah, with some nice spring colours, and the sun's actually out today, so it's good
You know
timing.
what? It's been horrible, hasn't it?
You
And
know,
oh, nice.
just in time.
Perfect. Well, I will turn my camera off so everyone can focus on what you're doing, but take it away when you're ready.
Brilliant.
And of course, I'll still be here to ask you questions and any questions you guys have.
Brilliant.
So don't.
Perfect. Thank you. All right,
Oh,
I'm just going to zoom in so that you can
oh, this looks
see
fun.
what I'm doing.
Wow.
So we have some nice, bright, colourful springtime
Yeah.
nail art. So yeah, I've got 3 designs. I'm not sure whether we'll have time for all 3. Might have time just for 2, but I'll do as much as I can. So, do we have any preferences about what we would like to see first.
Oh, I mean, I love that middle one. That looks
Yeah,
fantastic.
we can do that one. And that actually pretty much uses every single color. So you'll see every color in action. So here we have the Happy Vibes collection. This is in the buttercream formula, which is a hard color gel. And we do also have these in the P plus, which is our gel polish. So exact same colors available in both formulas. So whether you prefer a hard gel color or a gel polish color, we have both available. So I'm going to start. We're going to go for this middle one here. So this one has kind of like a tie-dye background with some hand-painted daisies on the top, but there's a really easy way to get these daisy petals, which I can't wait to show everyone, because when I realized you could do this, it's so much easier than trying to paint them with like a detailer brush. So right, I'm going to start off. I just have a clear or a white tip prepped, ready to go. And before I do my tie-dye, I'm going to apply a thin base layer of clear Jimmy gel. This is our clear builder in a bottle. And this is just going to give us a nice slip for the tie-dye to go onto so that the colours will blend together. So you kind of get that hippie, tie-dye, funky look, and the colours don't end up just kind of sitting on the nail and not really marbling together so well. So really, really thin. I'm going to kind of scrape off some of the product that I have on there. I don't want too much because we're going to be adding colours to this layer, and if we have a thick layer of Jimmy, then when we apply the colour, everything's just going to start running to the sides, and it just all becomes a bit of a mess. So nice and thin with that. And then we're just going to dive in and use pretty much a bit of everything. I'm going to use a detailer brush, and I'm just going to kind of go for it. So I'm going to start in the center of the nail and just create a swirl from the center and just make that wider as we get round that swirl. This does not need to be neat whatsoever because we're gonna tie-dye these anyway, so they're not gonna look neat in the end. And to be honest, the neater they look, it kind of looks better if it's a little bit messy.
Yeah.
So I'm just dipping in to each color.
And I think the beauty with tie-dye is that you can sort of make it your own, can't
You
you?
can, and you don't really need to be artistic. I
Yeah.
think some designs and some techniques you do need to have a bit of an artistic flair, shall we say. You need to have that kind of skill, but
Yeah.
with a tie-dye, because you're going to kind of blur the colors together in certain places, you really can just whack it on there and let that, especially with the Jimmy Joe underneath, that just allows the colors to kind of relax into it anyway. So
Yeah.
we'll go with the imperfect. I always like designs like this where you don't have to be super precise. And if you get asked for nail art last minute, it's quite an easy one to pull out.
Yeah.
So just applying a colour at a time.
These shades are so vibrant. It's
They're
fantastic.
so
Yeah.
bright. And Light Elegance have done so well with these brights, because brights are so difficult to really get very bright with a lot of pigmentation in
Yeah.
a formula that is so so good with its ingredients, so we don't use HEMA, we don't use HPMA, IBOA, HEA, HPA, all the kind of known ingredients that are known to cause allergies we don't use, so that makes things a little bit trickier again. So the fact we've been able to get this amazing pigmentation with that as well is just a bit of a bonus, really. But yeah, we've had lots of brights before, but the pigmentation has never been as good as these ones. So we've just got kind of a random swirl going on to begin with. And then before we cure it, we want to run the brush through to get that tie-dye effect. So again, just kind of going from the middle and just lightly pulling the brush through the colours. And you can run through a couple of times before you wipe the brush off. I wouldn't recommend more than twice because it just ends up getting a bit too messy, and you still want to see the definition between the different colours rather than it just all merging together.
This looks so cool already.
And you could do this on its own without the flowers on the top. This could just be a design in itself.
I mean, I have noticed quite a lot of tie-dye this year already.
Yeah, it's definitely having a moment, I think.
I think people are trying to channel good weather.
Yeah. Okay, so I've just pulled inward slightly on some areas just to give it a little bit of kind of differentiation and interest over the design. And I'm going to put this into cure now. So because I've got Jimmy Joe underneath and then the colours on the top as well, I'm going to cure this for 60 seconds in the Ellie dot lamp. That's just going to make sure that we've got a good cure. There we go, that's on the go. And then over the top of that, because these colours are so vibrant, I don't want them to take away from the flowers on the top. So I'm actually going to use something else over the top of them just to soften it slightly so that then the daisies will really pop from the base. So I'm going to use Marshmallow. This is a sheer milky white. It's great for softening anything that you put underneath it. So if you put a colour that you want to make a bit softer, or if you use kind of a nudie natural shade that you just want to tone down either the pinkness of it or the peachiness of it, Marshmallow is just great for that.
Yeah.
It just tones everything down a little bit. So I'm going to use that with my gel polish brush once this one's finished curing. There we go. So that's finished curing now. So if you wanted to, you could just leave it at that if you wanted more of a tie-dye finish. And I'm just going to take a small amount of that Marshmallow and apply it over the surface. And you could do one or two layers of this depending on how much you want to soften it. I'm just going to do one because I do want that pattern to still show nicely beneath that nail art, but you can apply two if you want to make those flowers stand out even more.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that into cure. That's going to go in for 30 seconds.
And I feel like milky nails are having a moment as well. So that's like quite a nice mix of the two trends.
Definitely. Once that's cured, I'm going to use our flat matte top coat. What I've done is I've used a matte finish and then we're going to apply the nail art over the top. This also, I think, just makes the design really pop from the nail. This one I've actually done the flowers before the flat matte and then I've done another layer on the top. But I'm going to do it slightly differently this time because I feel like it will make the flowers stand out even more and it will be easier to see on the camera. So you can either apply your flowers directly to that layer or you can do what I'm going to do now and apply the flat matte. And this is going to give us a nice matte finish over that nail. I always love matte over any kind of nail art. It just makes all the little details stand out.
Yeah.
Whereas when you use shiny's lovely, but you just, because the highlights from the super shiny, you just don't get those tiny little details that show. So I'm going to put that into cure for 60 seconds. And then we will move on to our flowers. So for the flowers, I'm going to use just white buttercream. Buttercreams are just the best for nail art. So the buttercreams are our hard gel color formula. They can be used for full color coverage in 1 to 2 thin layers, but they are also really, really great for nail art because they are so pigmented and they literally stay where you put them, so they don't flood or bleed. You put that nail art on and it is going to stay exactly where you put it. So it means you can do more of the design at once without having to flash cure in between, which I think is just such a time saver.
Mm.
So we're going to use that to create the daisies. It's super, super pigmented. So you're going to get a nice strong design, even though we're using it over those really bold colours. Some whites, you'd still see a lot of the design through, but we're going to get nice coverage with the just white. And for the daisies, I'm actually going to use our number 4 flat brush, which is a square flat brush, as the name would suggest. Where did my little stand go? There we go. So this is it out of the lamp. You can see that it's still somewhat shiny. So I'm going to cleanse the top surface with our Ellie Pro cleanser. And as I cleanse, you should see the matte finish is revealed.
That looks fab.
Okay, so we're going to go into our just white. I'm going to take the side of the flat brush and dip it into the white. And then, and this is very technical, you're gonna have to bear with me because it's super technical, but all we do is we just smush it up on the nail.
Too technical for me.
Very technical. And just, obviously, if this was your client's hand, I actually would get the client to just move their hand. I always move their nail where I want it rather than keeping it straight on. I always move their hand. I just think it's so much easier. So I'm just going around, adding those petals, and then we've got a bit of fluff. I'm just going to get rid of that. We don't want to fluff in there. You can leave it as that. If you feel like some petals aren't coming out as far, if they're not as long as you want, just use either the side with the white or the side without the white. If you feel like you've got enough gel on there and you just want to extend the length of the petal, so something like that. You could flash cure at that point, but the just white isn't going to move anywhere, so I'm going to go ahead. I've got a fluff on my brush, bear with me. It's one of those days. There we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the other flower. I always tend to keep the flowers quite random, but always make sure that I'm kind of going from one side to the next side so that it keeps some sort of balance to the nail. And then you can also just add little hints of petals at the side as well, so it gives that impression that the pattern just carries on off the nail.
That looks so good.
Just extend it where you need. And then I'm going to put this into cure. I'm just going to cure this for 30 seconds and then we'll come back and add a second layer so that it overlaps. So as you can see, we've got a very full looking daisy. We've just got kind of random petals at the moment, so we want to fill it in so we've got more of a complete shape. So we'll wait for that to cure.
So what's your favourite colour from the Happy Vibes collection?
This will come as no surprise to anyone that knows me well. Groovy green, because I'm a green gal. Yeah, I was absolutely buzzing when we got this collection because up till now, my favourite colour has been Fresh to Death. If anyone knows Light Elegance, Fresh to Death has been kind of our only really bright green up until now. And I had requested one that was more of like a chartreuse type of green, and this, they just did it so well. They absolutely nailed it. Excuse the pun. So yeah, I was very happy about that. But honestly, I love I'm a bit of a contrast. I love the brights and I love the darks. But because this collection is just so bright, I do love a bit of them all. Even the blue, I wasn't sure about the blue when I first saw it, but it goes on so nicely. And it's got a slight shimmer that you can't really see, but it just makes the color look really glossy. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I'm just kind of overlapping, filling in the gaps that we left from the petals before. And again, just using the side of that brush just to pull any of the petals out that I'm not totally happy with kind of how far they come out. And then just add a little bit more to my brush. You can see I've got such a tiny amount on my brush. You don't need very much of the buttercreams to get that kind of coverage. And there are some more sheer areas in the petals, but that's kind of the look we're going for, because then we'll add some details after that will show up easier. If you really go like full coverage with this first layer, you don't really then see the details that you add after. So just add in some little bits here and there. I'm going to put that into cure. I'm going to cure that for 30 seconds again.
And I love the designs at the edges as well. I think that's really effective.
Yes, it's always my biggest tip, is to always paint the design as if it's carrying on. It doesn't just finish on the center of the nail, that it keeps going. It just gives it a bit more of a cohesive finish and makes it look overall just a little bit more balanced. So I'm going to use just white again for the details, and a really, really super fine brush. So the thinnest liner brush that you have is the way you want to go for this part, because we're going to add some small details to the petals. So I don't know if you can see there, it almost gives a slight raised, slightly 3D finish. So I'm not going to kind of agitate the product. With the buttercreams, if you agitate them, they become a bit more fluid, which is great for full coverage application, makes it go on really smooth and even. But I really want that kind of thicker texture to stay intact, so that we do get this semi 3D effect with the details. So all I'm going to do is literally just dip into the product, slightly work the product through just so that the bristles are coated, and then go straight onto the nail to add those details. I'm going to start in the middle of a petal and then just bring it out towards the edge. I don't want to completely draw the outline of every petal, because it doesn't look as effective. It looks a bit more realistic, and you get a much nicer effect with that 3D if you just add little details here and there. So I'm really just focusing on going around the middle and then pulling the line up some of the petals. Doesn't need to go all the way up. We're just adding little touches here and there.
I think it's so nice to have such a simple way to do daisies, because I think some people think, oh, flowers, and they're like, oh,
yeah,
I don't make them effective, but it can be simple.
Yes, I think with some floral designs, it can be a little bit intimidating almost, of like, where on earth do I even start to create something like that? So yeah, being able to create the petals like that just with the side of the brush, it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah, you're using the brush to do the work.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got the middles in there. I'm just going to flash cure this just so that those parts, I don't end up like touching them or moving them. More for me rather than the product. It's not going to go anywhere, but I just want to make sure that I'm not going to disrupt anything. So just a quick flash cure for 4 or 5 seconds. And then I'm just going to add some little details to the edges of the petals just to give a little bit of extra definition just to those edges. So this time I'm angling my brush away from the middle of the petal and just doing some tiny little dashes. And again, I'm not going to add this to every single flower, just where I want to, where I feel like it would add a bit of interest. And always just kind of stepping back from the design, looking at it so I'm not just focused on that tiny one bit. Look at it as the design overall, and then decide where to put the next bit of detail. I'm just going to go straight on to the other one. This is where I go quiet because I'm concentrating.
I was going to ask you a question, but I was like, no, you're like deep in it.
Don't forget those ones at the side as well. And I think that will be good. So I'm going to put that in, and then we just have one last step for this design, which is to add the middle of the flowers, so like the pollen in the center. My favorites for this are Hear Me Roar and Farm Fresh, because these are both quite warm tones, so they kind of look a bit more polleny. So Farm Fresh is a really nice, like warm, sunny orange, and then Hear Me Roar is a nice, warm yellow. And for this, all you need is a really, really tiny dotting tool. So there's no ball or anything on the end of it. It just comes to a soft point. This is the #1 stylus from Light Elegance, but just any small dotting tool will be fine. You just want to make sure it's small enough that it doesn't end up just overtaking the whole flower. So I'm just going to dot this in the middle. It can overlap the white slightly, that's absolutely fine. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect. And then with your really, really small brush that you use to create the details, just take a little bit of the Hear Me Roar, dip the brush in, and then just dot into that orange. Take a bit more yellow if you need it.
Made such a gorgeous colour inside.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to put that into cure, and I'm going to cure it for 60 seconds this time. So the buttercreams only need 30 seconds to cure, but we're going to cure it for 60 because we want to make sure that the nail art isn't going to go anywhere. So it just means that that sticky inhibition layer is less sticky, and it will stay in place. I'm also not going to top coat this design because I want to keep that slightly raised effect through the pollen in the middle and also those details. So all I will do when it comes out the lamp is just cleanse it to make sure that there is no sticky layer left. The buttercreams, when they cure for 60 seconds, they do actually cure with almost like a tack-free finish. It's not completely tack-free, but almost. So just a light cleanse will be enough to take away what's left there. 30-second cure, they still have a decent kind of sticky layer on, which is great when you're applying full colour, but it is helpful to have that slightly less tacky finish when you're doing nail art and you know it's going to stay exactly where you've put it. There's nothing worse than doing nail art and then you cure it, you put the top coat on and you cleanse it and then it just goes everywhere.
No.
So I normally give that around like a 30 seconds to 60 seconds to cool down, just so that as I cleanse it, I don't disrupt the shine, because you do get a nice shine from the buttercreams, even though they've not got a top coat over, you do get a nice shine on there, which again is nice with the flat mat in the background, and then you get the nail art that pops out on the top with the shine.
That looks fantastic. Wow.
And the nice thing with these designs, I think, is that everyone looks different. So depending on the order of the colours that you do and how much you use, what tie-dye kind of strokes you do, they always look different, which I really like, because it means that every client gets something that is completely unique.
Yeah. And I mean, when I first saw that design, I was like, wow, that's amazing. I feel like any salon client would be overjoyed with that, because
Yes.
salon friendly, but it almost doesn't look it.
Yes. And you can use the elements separately all together as well. So like the flowers you can do on their own with a base colour, or on like a nude nail. You can do the tie-dye on its own. So yeah, there's lots of elements. You can kind of do what you want with them.
Yeah.
Have we got time for another one?
Yes, let's do it.
Okie dokie. So I'm going to do this one here, because this is something that I think looks really, with the ombre of the glitter, looks really complicated, and actually it is the easiest thing to do, and you can just do it on its own without the nail art on top, and clients will love this. So I'm going to start with a base layer of Free Spirit, which is one of the glitter gels from the Happy Vibes collection. It's got amazing like holographic pieces in there, which I love. Anything with chunky bits in, I love it. We've got the rest of the glitters here, so pretty much something to match every colour that we have in the collection. And again, these come in our hard gel formula, which come in the pots, and then also our gel polish. So no matter whether you're a gel polish girly or boy, or whoever you are, or a gel polish or a hard gel, then there is something for you. So I'm going to start again with Jimmy Gel. This has just got the glitter gel on, nothing on over the top. I'm going to apply Jimmy Gel for two reasons. One is that it's going to give me a nice smooth surface over this glitter. And the second one is that the inhibition layer, once Jimmy Gel is cured, is much more slippery than our other gels. And that is the key to creating the ombre with this glitter. So I'm not ombreing the glitters, I'm using colour over the top to create that ombre effect.
Oh wow, that's clever.
So I'm just using a little bit more, just in areas where I need it, just to make sure that this Jimmy Gel is nice and smooth. And once I'm happy with that, I'm going to put it into cure for 60 seconds. Jimmy Gel always needs 60 to cure. And then I'm going to use 3 colours. So for this one, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I will show you what I use for that one. I'll use a different combination so that you can see it works with different colours. For the nail that I've got on my demo swatch here, I used the orange Trippy, Love Buck, which is a bright pink, and then Far Out, which is the blue. So I did orange to pink to blue, and it gives this kind of transition from like an orange to a more or less looks purple, because we've got the pink in there as well. I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm still going to use the orange, but I think I'm going to do yellow and green. Got to get the green in there. So I'm going to use the exact same technique. So if you wanted to create this exact look, you just use this exact same technique, but with those original colours that I just showed you. So our Jimmy Gel is cured. We've got our nice smooth surface over that glitter gel to be able to apply our colours. I'm going to start with Trippy. I'm going to take my gel polish bling brush, and I'm going to the tiniest amount of this product. As we know, as we've seen with the first design, these are super pigmented, but what we actually want to do is shear this out using the sticky layer of the Jimmy Gel. So I'm just going to tap on the side of the jar where there is a slight bit of colour. It is the tiniest amount. You're better off starting with a small amount and then adding a bit if you need to, rather than putting loads on and then trying to take it off. It gets really messy, and especially when you're working on a client, you don't want to be getting the product on the skin. We want to make sure that we are using as little as possible. And if you use too much, you won't see the glitter poking through from underneath. So I'm going to get a tiny bit more, and I'm using kind of a patting, pressing motion going from side to side, and then bring it down the nail to just be on kind of a third. So you can see already there we've got a slight difference, slight transition from like orange into the pink.
That looks so effective.
It's so easy, and I think a lot of people would use like a jelly polish to do this, but it's so helpful to be able to create looks like this without needing to buy an extra product.
Yeah,
it's things that if you buy the collection, if you've already got your clear builder, if you've already got your Jimmy Gel, you just use what you have. So I'm now going to add my yellow in the center. Again, I'm just using a really small amount and patting it up towards that orange so that we get a nice transition there.
Ooh.
And then we'll go with a bit of the groovy green. Tiny bit, because they are so pigmented. And I start at the bottom of the nail and then pat and press up towards the middle.
Oh, that green looks so cool.
So you can still see the glitter through, and I find when you put the top coat on, you see that glitter even more. If you feel like there's any areas where you've got a bit too much colour, just clean the brush off and then just use the flat of the brush just to press over that area, and it will just lift off any excess colour. This is giving me like fruit salad vibes. It's making me want to eat sweets.
Oh, it's lunchtime. We need to.
So that is our base effect there. You can see hopefully the difference there between the different colours that we've used.
Wow.
So I'm going to put this in to cure. I'm just going to cure this for 30 seconds. We've got really thin layers of buttercream there, so that will cure nicely. And then I can just go straight in on top of that layer to create the nail art. So I'm going to keep these ones out. I've used the same colours that I used for the ombre for the nail art. Keep that kind of cohesive look, and then also a bit of just white, which was the white we used for the flowers.
Fab.
I'm going to use a detailer brush to do the nail art.
It's quite nice that you can keep all the sort of colours but use them to do different things.
Definitely. Okay, so we've got a nice fruit salad now on the go, and I'm just going to pick the green first because, you know, why not? And I am just going to swirl my brush in the product. I do want it to be slightly more self-leveling this time because I want to create difference in the thickness of the line. And you can just do the lines wherever you want. There's no rules when it comes to this part. So just a nice swirly line. Wherever you place your brush first, you're going to get the thicker part of the line. So we're going to push down onto the nail and then just swirl it in kind of a swirly pattern. And you can see we've got more gel where we place first, and then it gets thinner as it gets towards the edge. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more, just so that we can see that green a bit more as it gets thinner. that's looking nice. I'm just going to flash cure that again, just so that I don't end up kind of touching it or moving it, and get my next colour out. So Psychedelic, which is the nice bright yellow. Take that nail out of the lamp, and I'm going to do the same thing. So give it a bit of a swirl, and then for this one, I want the thickest part to be maybe a little bit higher, somewhere towards the middle. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to add a bit more product to my brush, start in the middle again, and take it out the other side. And if the line isn't totally perfect, so here in the middle it's got a little bit uneven, I can just use my white to neaten that up. So I'm not too worried about that at the moment. It's more about making sure that the colour is nice and even along that swirly line. So we've got that one on there. I'm going to put that into Flash Cure again, and then get my next colour ready, which is Trippy. Nice bright orange. Take that out of the lamp, swirl the brush in, and then for this one, I'm going to start it at the top. Beautiful.
Oh, that looks so cool.
So I'm going to put that in to the lamp. Just give that a 30-second cure, and then we're going to come in with our Just White to complete. So I'll just wait for that to finish.
We had a question from Nail Crafting. So they've said, does buttercream have flexibility when used thinly?
It is a hard gel, so it is not going to have the same flexibility as a gel polish, but you can use this exact same technique with the P+. So the technique that I've used with the to create the color ombre over the glitter, you can do that with P+. You would apply the Jimmy gel in the same way and then use the P+ in exactly the same way. I would just recommend using a separate brush. So rather than using the brush from the P+ bottle, use something like the gel polish brush just to decant some of the color, or even just use the, let me try and find, just grab. So if we've got our P+ here, you would just grab, you could just literally tap the brush on the edge of the rim of the bottle, because you need such a small amount. And the P+ in this collection are also really super pigmented, so you can still create that same effect. So if you want something that's a bit more flexible, I would go with the P+. I'm assuming that maybe they're asking that because they want to know if they can use it over like a soak off base, maybe. But yeah, if you're using a soak off base, I would recommend using the P+ instead. We can use buttercreams with our Jimmy gel because Jimmy gel has enough rigidity to it that the buttercream doesn't crack, but not all soak off bases are like that. So if you're using another brand, I'd recommend going for the P+. So I'm going to do exactly the same now, just with the white. You don't have to make it thicker at the same part you've made the colour. You can make it wherever you like. So I tend to make it thicker where I've got maybe a little bit of unevenness in the line, so that I can use the white to smooth it out. So just using the brush to just glide and follow along that original line. And this one you can take a bit more time and just make sure that you've got it nice and even, exactly how you want it. So we've got that one there. You can flash cure in between, or you can go ahead and do the other lines all at once. Depends how brave you're feeling. Sometimes it depends on your customer as well. If you know you've got a customer that's a bit more fidgety, it's worth just flash curing in between.
I've asked a lot of nail artists this, but it's a question we get asked quite a lot at Scratch. A lot of people worry about having sort of shaky hands when doing this sort of like line work. Do you have any tips?
Definitely always anchor your hand. So my little finger is always sticking out, and I always rest it on the hand that is holding the client's hand. So even when I'm doing these tips, you can see my little finger is anchored to my middle finger, so that otherwise, if you're just free reining it around along that nail, it's just going to be a mess. So yeah, always make sure you've got that little pinky helping you out.
Give yourself some stability.
Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely needed. My lines would definitely not look like this if I was just my arm with my hand was just, floating in the air.
Well, I think people think, oh, they're just doing it freehand like that. And I'm like, I don't think they are.
No. The little finger is always somewhere.
Yeah.
It's always resting somewhere. All right, I'm going to cure that for 60 seconds now because this is our nail art done. I am going to top coat this one. So what we don't want is for when we put the top coat over it, for the design to smudge or bleed. It's nothing more annoying than putting a top coat over a design and then the colour kind of bleeds into the top coat and you lose all of that definition that you've just created and spent all that time getting just right. So yeah, I always recommend doing that double cure. So like I say, they normally cure for 30 seconds and I'm going to cure for 60. Exactly the same with the P+. The colour cures for 30 seconds. And if you are doing nail art, I always recommend to cure for 60 so that you are guaranteeing that the top coat application isn't going to change that nail art design that you've spent time creating. Okay, so this is like making me think of a cocktail now. This this nail.
I'm so hungry. I'm like,
So I'm just applying our super shiny top coat over this nail. If you were doing this with P+, you would use the high shine P+ top coat. Just make sure that's all nicely sealed. And now we've got the sparkle coming out from underneath. We've got that nice colour ombre that's really subtle, but it's at the same time really noticeable. It's really effective.
That looks fantastic.
And then I'm going to put that into cure for 60 seconds. So all of our top coats cure for 60 seconds in the LED dot lamp or the mini dot. So yeah, top coats are always 60 and colour is always 30, unless it's nail art, and then just do it for 60 for good measure.
Yeah. Don't ruin your work if you can.
Yes, there is nothing more annoying.
Wow. I just can't get over how simple that was in the end.
There we go. That was my aim for today. I wanted to show things that look really effective, but they're actually quite easy to put together, but also designs where you've got different techniques that you can use on their own or combine together. So you have got that freedom to kind of use these techniques however you wish. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we've had a lot of people commenting saying about how great this looks and they love your tips and stuff. So
that's good.
If anyone does create any of the designs, please do share them with Scratch and with Jojo, because that would be fantastic to see.
Yeah, I would love to see that. So I'm just going to cleanse the sticky layer. If you prefer a top coat that doesn't have a sticky layer, we do have Top Gloss. That is a tack-free top coat, but that is only for use over hard gels. So if you're using P+, we don't have a tack-free At the moment, I hope one day. I know it's something they're trying very, very hard for, but it's very difficult when you're eliminating certain
Yeah.
ingredients. But yeah, I'm sure they'll get there
Yeah.
one day.
Oh,
So there we go.
fantastic. Wow.
So yeah, there we have your spring nail art with the Happy Vibes collection.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nice to see the colours being used. They look fantastic.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jojo. That was brilliant. And I feel like everyone's got so many tips now. It's like, oh,
Good.
need to bit.
That's always good to hear.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, it's been fantastic. And hopefully we can have you do another demo when another collection launches.
Definitely. I'd love to.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and take care.
Take care,
See you
guys. Bye.
later. Bye.